Hey guys, welcome back to Z World News, here with another article for you guys. Today's article is coming from tfiglobalnews.com website. It's titled from June 13th, 2021. If US is willing to follow Trump's policy, Russia can help the G7 against China. Putin makes his intentions clear, by Acacia Narain. So let's go ahead and get started with the article. Russian President Vladimir Putin has managed to stage a massive turnaround yet again. Putin showered praise on former US President Donald Trump at a time when the G7 summit was taking place. And the next thing we know, the group of the world's 7 advanced economies called the G7 take on China in an unprecedented show of unity on the subject. Now, the focus of the 47th G7 summit was on China, and the usual anti-Russia rhetoric wasn't the central agenda. Behind the curtains, a shrewd Putin made a very sharp move. When most of the G7 countries were working against China, Putin gave a subtle message that if you can bring back Trump's anti-China policies, Russia could be a partner against China. Now, that would be tariffs on Chinese goods, more or less. That's what Trump was pushing. So let's go ahead and continue. Truth be told, Russia does not like the G7 countries. These countries have always been anti-Russia as a bloc under American leadership. And then Germany keeps pushing anti-Russia propaganda within the G7. In fact, G7 was once the G8 when Russia as a member, but it was disgraced and removed from the exclusive club in 2014. So there is just too much bitter history. They were removed because of the Crimea takeover. But when the G7 met for its 47th summit, Putin foresaw how US President Joe Biden wanted to use the summit for his anti-Russia propaganda. On the other hand, Japan, the UK, and France were eager to make the G7 summit in Cornwall, UK, look like a show of strength against Chinese hegemony. As per Politico, a senior US administration official suggested that France was willing to single out China over its forced labor practices. Japan, too, was reportedly interested in bringing the Taiwan issue on the G7 agenda. Since at least the 3 G7 countries were keen on discussing China rather than whining about Russia, Putin thought of playing his big card, Donald John Trump. Putin gave his first interview to an American news network on Friday, the same day on which the G7 summit started. The Russian president told NBC's Keir Simmons, "Well, even now, I believe the former U.S. President, Mr. Trump, is an extraordinary individual, talented individual. Otherwise, he would not have become U.S. President." Putin used some adulatory adjectives for Trump, like extraordinary, talented, and colorful. What Putin said must be understood in the larger context. He was endorsing Trump's policy of treating China as a bigger threat and an outright U.S. enemy. Trump was ready to cooperate with Russia and isolate China, a policy that Biden reversed after coming to power. The incumbent U.S. president tends to look towards Russia as a U.S. enemy while considering China as some sort of a competitor. For Russia, Biden's ascension to power was a setback for understandable reasons. So Putin decided to give a subtle message to the G7. Russia isn't the villain, China surely is. By praising Trump, Putin was actually giving a soft signal to the G7. So if the G7 countries can make a few compromises in their policies, Russia will cooperate with the free world in handling the formidable challenge it faces in the form of growing Chinese belligerence. In fact, Putin carried another subtle message. While he praised Donald Trump's policies, the Russian president also just suggested that he can work with Joe Biden. So all is not lost. Even today, the West can drive a wedge between Russia and China, pull Moscow out of the isolation it has been facing for years, and isolate Beijing instead. And in all fairness, it seems that Putin's strategy has worked. The way G7 became a show of unity against China shows how Putin has succeeded. End of article. Russia has more in common with the West, EU, European Union, than it does have with China. China is an expansionist country. They want more land because they have a lot of people. They strongly believe that parts of Russia belong to them. And if Russia actually opens up the gates to Chinese migration, they might take over those parts. And I think that's what scares Russia the most. Also, the influence that China has on the Eurasian countries. They're making inroads. China is making inroads because of the One Belt, One Road strategy that they do have. And that's taken away a lot of the influence of what Russia has with these countries, as well as Ukraine. China is making deals with Ukraine as well. Russia sees the writing on the wall in the future. Making a deal with China against the world might not be in their best interest. And you're seeing subtle moves of what Putin is doing, talking to Japan, trying to make deals with the Kuril Islands, talking to the EU, Germany. All of these tensions that are going on between Russia and the EU might actually be a ruse to plan some kind of big strategy against China. But again, that's my opinion. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And I'll see you in the next episode.